Welcome back to the CyberRisk TV livestream for Octane 2024 at Caesars Forum in Las Vegas. I'm your host, Mandy Logan, and today I'm joined by Erin Baudo Felter, who is the Vice President, Social Impact and Sustainability at Okta. And today we are going to talk about addressing cybersecurity disparities. Now, what sort of disparities are we talking about?
Well, first of all, Mandy, thanks so much for having me. It's a thrill to be here. We think a lot about the disparities around security, and it's multifaceted. So we think about, first, disparities across organizations. We know that cybersecurity and risks and threats are an issue certainly for every organization, right, large and small, but in particular for smaller organizations like nonprofits. As one example, they are so much more vulnerable to threats because of a variety of factors, including resourcing gaps, skill gaps, and frankly, just knowledge gaps. And so we think a lot about the ways in which we can do more to protect those organizations. We also think about disparities from the jobs perspective and the talent perspective.
Okay.
So how do we ensure that there's enough trained cyber talent out there to actually protect all of these organizations who need it? And so we're doing a lot of work in that area as well.
Oh, fantastic. And I am curious, so is it Okta's stance that there is a skills gap, that there is a need for many more practitioners than what are currently available?
It is. It is. And we see this from a few angles. So there's research out there that says, for example, that in the world today, there's a gap of 4 million cybersecurity jobs that remain unfilled. There's other kind of macro research that we look at to inform our position on these things. But I think more than that, we talk to our customers, we talk to our partners, and we look at our ecosystem, and everyone is struggling with this. There's just not enough skilled and qualified talent to fill the need that we see, again, in our ecosystem, in particular around identity security, which is obviously something Okta cares a lot about.
Absolutely. And I genuinely hold to the idea that identity is security.
Yes.
I do completely believe that. Now, I interact a lot of times with the security practitioner, analyst, SOC, and ethical hacking side of cybersecurity. And there's definitely been a lot of discourse on that side from practitioners going, well, if there's such a skills gap, why am I not finding employment easily?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's what I was curious. So your viewpoint is still, from everything you've seen in your ecosystem, the skills gap is widening.
Yes.
And do you have input on why that is? Is it simply because of the advent of AI, generative AI agents?
I mean, certainly there are more threats, and they're growing faster than ever. So that's the biggest problem, that's sort of driving everything else. The threat landscape is certainly the most challenging that I think anyone working today has ever seen.
True.
And we expect that it's only going to increase, again, because of things like AI just making it easier for threat actors to do bad things. So we definitely see that. And I think, in terms of what else we're seeing, there's many parts to how to bring somebody into this field and how to bring them in a way where they're skilled and ready to deliver value. There's recruitment challenges, and frankly, just like demystifying what working in cyber really is for people. Well,
absolutely.
You're laughing.
In fact, because I just had a conversation with Charlotte Wiley about how there have been instances that I have, once was a meeting with the Nevada State Department of Education. So it was individuals that were PhD levels, career counselors, and guiding and creating training forces. And I said, well, cybersecurity is a perfect fit for this and for disabled communities. Like, I am personally disabled and come forward, so I understand that side of it. And I said there's many, many benefits to the cybersecurity world for individuals that do need accommodations. And they would not believe that cybersecurity was a job.
Really?
They wouldn't. And so I would try to discuss and go, you're using your computer, you are using your cell phone.
Yep.
Every single transaction, every single time you are clicking anything, signing on to anything, that requires individuals and strategies, software, background
processes.
Things all of the processes. And they still would not accept it. So I did research and had to put together kind of a whole dossier on that cybersecurity existed as a career path.
But I think that, we think everyone has perfect understanding because we're Okta and we do this, but really it's still, there's so much more education and awareness that's needed out in the world to make people understand the risks in their personal lives, the risks to their organizations. And so, a big part of what we focus on from the work that I lead, which is Okta for Good and Okta's social impact and sustainability program, it's really a lot about demystifying first and foremost. And the other thing we like to demystify is that a lot of people think that working in cybersecurity is this highly technical,
Very fair.
right?
Absolutely.
Highly maybe solitary type of a role. And what
And
we
that
like
you must
to
know coding, and you must know
coding.
every single, the history of
Exactly.
every single item that's ever been created.
Yes, and you must look a certain way and come from a certain type
Very
of
true.
educational background. None of those things are true for those of us who know all of the variety of roles and jobs and skills that you need to do this work. Some of it, in fact, is very people-centric. When you think
Absolutely.
about things, one of the biggest needs we see in organizations large and small is around security culture. So how do you actually train and enable your staff to not click on a phishing link? Or to practice safe behaviors when it comes to how they're building products even. And so we enjoy that part of that demystifying it, and we do a lot of work with organizations that are serving youth and folks who are sort of just getting their first exposure into tech and into cyber, and that's always very energizing because you sort of see the light bulb go off when students realize, it doesn't have to look one way, right? I can bring my passions, my personality, my interests into a role in cyber.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd say I consistently meet with individuals. Just 2 nights ago, I had a very lengthy conversation with an individual who is career changing, mid-career change, from being a heart surgeon, an infant and adult heart surgeon. And he decided to go to a boot camp, has zeroed in on offensive security, and was attending his first security conference.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that in this space there's often that I get to speak with people who come from library science or fine arts or we're race car drivers or there's a lot that can be utilized very effectively. And still what I love about cybersecurity is so many individuals, their hearts are based on improving the greater good.
100%. I always say this. I say, if you want a job with a purpose, which increasingly, that's what people want. That's what people want. They don't want to come to work and, check a box and get a paycheck. They want to know they're contributing to the world. And I always say there's almost no better role than a role in cybersecurity if you want to find that purpose. And, to your earlier point about all the different ways you can sort of bring people into this. We do some really interesting work with the UC Berkeley Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity.
Oh, interesting.
They're a partner of ours for the last several years. They have a cybersecurity clinic at UC Berkeley, and what they do is they take students who are interested in getting hands-on real-world, cyber experience, and they pair them with high-risk nonprofits who are vulnerable, maybe more than your average nonprofit, to politically motivated attacks or...
Well, I know that we had the session about the partnering with the Trevor Project.
Yes.
as
Oh,
an
that's a great example. Yes.
Right.
So lots of organizations maybe focus on LGBTQ issues or reproductive rights or various things. They pair these students after some coursework with these nonprofits to do things like security risk assessments and hands-on help. And the director of the program was actually here earlier speaking in a session, and I was chatting with him afterward, and he was talking about the fact that, many of the students come in that are pursuing a master's in cybersecurity, and so that's very obvious, and that's great. And then there's sort of this other way in, which is a lot looser, where they get students from computer science and management information system, but then they also get them from policy. He was talking about a student who was a psychology major who came into the program and is now finding ways to connect her passion for psychology into thinking about how do you actually change people's minds to help them protect themselves from cyber threats. So there's really cool things happening.
It is fascinating. And I came to be around cybersecurity actually after having been in construction engineering and management, but then going through injuries that required neurological rehabilitation, and the things that needed to be done with a neurological system, to me, overlapped very easily with what was going on with network security.
Interesting.
Identifying exploits, vulnerabilities, and creating a more secure posture. And I guess you could say that was more secure posture to be able to stand up. So there are constantly surprising things. And I want to go back to what you said about training. Now, when you were talking about Okta's initiatives for training, was that for organizations to train their current employees to avoid phishing attacks? Or are you talking about training individuals to become cybersecurity practitioners?
So we think about it in a few ways, and I'll speak a little bit about Okta's cybersecurity workforce development initiatives.
Please.
It's something we announced last year. We've put several $1 million of philanthropic support behind it. So we're funding organizations like the UC Berkeley Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity, like I mentioned, organizations like CodePath that are actually helping students learn and get hands-on experience with things like cybersecurity. Also organizations like Women in Cybersecurity to support more folks getting into the industry, certifications, networking to find jobs. So there's a philanthropic aspect that lets us reach into communities that might not already have easy access to these kinds of job opportunities, skill development opportunities, et cetera. There's also a push that we're making specifically around Okta training and Okta certification because, like I said earlier, we need more cyber talent overall, and in particular because of where we sit, we see that we need more identity security talent. You know, very much across our ecosystem. And so what we've done is we've made 5,000 scholarships available for folks who are recently unemployed, for veterans and military spouses to receive free Okta training and certifications as a way to accelerate folks who, you know, it's not their first rodeo. They've worked in tech, they've had careers in the military. They can be pretty quickly trained if they just have the opportunity to pivot into this new topic around identity security and Okta expertise. And so we have opened this up to them so that we can also sort of attack this issue of more immediate need for talent, you know, in seats tomorrow. So that's how we think about that.
I love seeing the real world actionable items that individuals can take initiative and they can come forward. So how does an individual take advantage of the scholarship program?
So the program is called What's Next by Okta, and you can Google it and find information about it. And it's available now. We've seen great response with folks who are excited about it, and our team is putting a lot of energy and support behind it as well. So I encourage folks to check that out.
Fantastic. So I am also very curious about Okta from its start chose to make sure that they were using the platform for good and for social impact and even for sustainability. Now, what has been your experience interacting with other organizations and large corporations that don't have that same embedded focus toward security and toward being a platform for good?
Thank you for that question. I mean, it's a huge reason why I've been at Okta almost 8 years. And,
have you? Yes.
And it's a huge reason why I'm still here, is that, like I said earlier, people want to have purpose to their jobs. They want to come to work for a bigger reason. And Okta's been a place, certainly for me, and I know for many others, where we've been able to do that. I mean, I give credit to our co-founders and our CEO, Todd McKinnon, for like walking the walk, frankly, and making it clear that we were here to, you know, as he would say, we want to attract people to work at Okta who want to solve big problems, not just for ourselves or even for our customers, but for the world. And so I think this spirit of like purpose has permeated Okta's culture and why people show up here since the very beginning. And then, you know, when you get to brass tacks, it's also a very smart business decision to invest in social and environmental impact. More and more, we're seeing that Okta's customers, you know, our 19,000 plus customers all over the world, from every industry, from every geography, they are increasingly asking us as their vendor to step up and to prove that we have made commitments around environmental sustainability, around diversity, equity, inclusion, around human rights, around social impact, because it's important to them. So when you think about it, it becomes first and foremost something we believe in, but I think more and more a smart way to meet our customers where they are, to differentiate ourselves, and to be a good partner to them, which is, you know, our number one goal.
Interesting. I am curious because my understanding is that your parents have a large impact on why you are in this field.
Oh.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so in our last minute, I'm curious because my understanding is that your mother was more of the hippie world.
Yes, I'll give you
could
the I'll
develop?
give you the 60-second.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and what I want to know
Yeah.
is there anything? What specifically is would she be most proud of, like the partnership with the Honnold Foundation, or what would she be interested in?
Oh, well, that's a really lovely question. Thank you for asking. So yes, the short story is my mother was a hippie who marched for civil rights in the 60s. My father was in the military and then became a business leader, and they made me. And so here I am trying to do all the things, I guess. What would she be most proud of? You know, my mom was always a little bit of a counterculturalist, and so maybe she'd just be most proud of the fact that in sort of a corporation where the way that things flow is toward quarterly results and financial results and all the things that we got to do.
All the strict numbers and all of the accounting. Yes.
Right? Like all the things that that maybe I've been able to turn some of our energies and resources toward things that otherwise wouldn't get that attention, and those things involve, you know, making the world a little bit better, a little bit more equitable, and I think she'd be proud of that. So.
I absolutely agree, and I think she would be very proud about. I love that the budget that would have gone to SWAG went to the Honnold Foundation for increasing power availability in areas that don't have it around the world.
Absolutely. We're very proud of our work with the Honnold Foundation as just one example of some of the organizations that we support around climate action. So we're happy to support them this week.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So Erin, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to our audience for tuning in for this live interview from Octane 2024. To find all the Cyber Risk TV coverage of this year's event, visit securityweekly.com/Octane.